Right, guys, my name is Anthony Cummins. I'm a historical researcher and author, and I've been asked, popular demand, for people have asked me to review the Shogun, the new series coming out. So here we go. If you would like to support me, please do click subscribe and like. But I am the author of multiple books, including the Book of Bushido, which will tell you all you need to know about Bushido, guys. Also, the Book of Samurai series. Tons of information, a lot of where my information comes from, and how to be a modern samurai, which will get you up to date today with understanding how the samurai work for a modern day setting. The first thing that stands out to me is that the castles are black, which is amazing. Castles originally were black in Japan. This is because at first they were made of wood and their timber was burnt, and then later they were blackened to stop basically setting fire to them. The idea of a white castle is a later idea. There were some early examples, I believe, but mainly Japanese castles were black. The interiors look superb. These are very, very realistic. The interiors look excellent. Japan was full of colour, and even though it had a sombre edge, it did have lots of colours in Japan. Now, the use of feathers and animal furs is perfect. He's got feathers on his jimbauri, which means his war jacket, and you get all this bear fur, horse bits, horse hairs, and you never really see this in other productions, so this looks really good. The armour, of course, as the Shogun it says, looks superb. I'm going to say I'm not sure about his cam on his crest there, multi-laced. It looks a bit Celtic patterns. Maybe it exists, I'm not sure. But the other these fire arrows. Fire arrows are usually quite difficult, and I haven't seen rounded ones yet. But they probably are okay, to be honest. I've seen lots of scrolls and dealt with lots of fire arrow documents, but I'm sure you could easily find rounded ones like that. But maybe they've made it for the show. I'm not quite sure, but I'm sure they could be found. I've never been able to get a reason for this, but the tatami laid like that, the tatami mats laid in lengths. I've still not found out why that happens in some places, and other times they're concentric. The concentric ones we know, but the flat lane ones I'm not sure. Just for fun, because I do a lot of sailing and I've actually sailed tall ships, it really annoys me. I don't think that foremast would still be stood up. The bowsprit's been broken and the stays and shrouds are all over the place. I'm sure it wouldn't still be stood up, but I'm just being pedantic now. I'm assuming this is tea, and I don't know if you can pour tea directly into someone's cup in their hand. I'm not sure. It's a good question, actually. Something I've not really thought of before. Now, the Jesuits say that the Japanese never hold any food when they're cooking it with their hands. They always use chopsticks or other implements. And, of course, we'd have to experiment with this or find more documentation. But most likely, he would have a utensil to hold that fish straight, which I know is a little bit of a small point. This guy dressed, he's pretty bang on. He's got his hakama hooked up as they would have. He's got his tasque sleeve ties on, but I think it's the wrong sleeves for the sleeve ties, but it's pretty close. Now, I don't know exactly who this is. I assume, obviously, it's got the Tokugawa flag. But he should have a spearman on his right side to pass him his spear. He should have a helmet bearer and his grooms. Probably someone in front of him. I'm not quite sure how to say who he is, but I assume he should not be at the front like that. And he should have his man at his side at the right. The Japanese loved hawking, the same as the Western Knights. So this is very much correct. I like this very much. He's just listened then, he said A-A-O. A-A-O. And that's actually the Japanese war cry. There are multiple different types of Japanese war cry, and that is a very correct one. Very well done. Musketeers or arquebusiers looking after the bowman, or the bowman looking after the rifleman, is a very correct thing as well. They are often linked together, so they look out for each other and are put together in squads. A very distinct lack of spears, which always annoys me when they portray Sengoku period. Get the spears in there, please. Okay, grooms to each side, which is excellent. However, no helmet bearer, no spear bearer. So usually they are there, because where's his spear of office? He's clearly the Taisho or the commander. He needs a spear of office. So, and none of the spear bearers or helmet bearers are there to help out. Young boys helping you to dress, young pages, absolutely perfect. That's how a samurai would have been attended, by either his servants or the pages, especially if he's a very high-ranking samurai. If you didn't know this, the roofs in Japan are very, very much... what type of roof you have is dictated by your status in Japan, and you can see here the stones on roofs, which you often don't see depicted, but that's very, very good. That's a good show of correct Japanese knowledge. I know this is historical fiction, but it is based on a certain time, and the timelines I think maybe slightly mixed up. I'm not sure. The ban of Christianity versus Sekigahara versus William Adams turning up and him slight. It's all very overlapping. So I'm not sure here. The guy openly has a cross, but crosses himself and then gets executed. However, the man here, the samurai, would not put his sword back in this way. He would wipe it on a cloth called a tenugui, or he would wipe it on the bottom of his sandal when he would take them off, or he would use, like, there's a moleskin sharpening. He would not just put it back there. He wouldn't use chiburi. Chiburi is to put your sword, flick your sword blood off. That didn't exist. That's, I think, an Edo period idea for when they ritualistically did it. They actually washed their swords before they put them back. However, I like this sword draw because it looks like proper Ei Jutsu, meaning that they both instantly go for their swords. It's not one's got it out and the other one simply slashes away with a quick draw. They all go as quick as possible, which is the purpose of Ei, quick meeting draws, basically. The costumes look phenomenal. This looks like a proper samurai. He stands out. He's on the battlefield perfect. Women traditionally kill themselves by cutting their throats or stabbing themselves in the throat, so this is really good. I like this depiction very well, and they all have a knife to do this. There's so much I could say about head hunting and taking the heads. It's become my speciality, as decapitation and the taking of heads in samurai battle. But this looks pretty spot on. His wakizashi looks the wrong one. It's meant to be a short one, a head-taking knife with no guard on it. But hey, you know, not to say it, you could just use anything in war, so there's no real. But the guy collecting swords in the background, perfect. Really, really good. If I was to improve this scene, I would simply have somebody looking out for him, and there's no head bags. Nobody's got any head bags there, or is that one at his side? I'm not quite sure. But basically, if I was to improve that scene, I'd have him wearing a tachi and not a katana. I'd have them all wearing tachis, but it doesn't really matter. By this time, they're probably gone to uchi katana. I'd also have him looked after by someone else and a shorter dagger to cut heads off, because they did carry them. I hope to God this is the Chinese trick of using birds to set fire to houses. Look, it's birds on fire, but the Chinese used to, or it's said that they attached embers to birds so that basically they could nest in the thatch and set fire, or nest in places and set fire to the buildings. I assume not, because it's not a thatched house and thingy, and it's just maybe a cool idea of putting the birds in there, but it would be good if they used the old Chinese skill. This is interesting. We do have in documentation that they say don't put your crest on things that can be left behind on a battlefield in case of emergencies. So they normally have like gourds and simple images that are not heraldic crests on these things, so that when you flee, the other enemy can't get them. That's what's said in the scrolls, and it might be because in the Sengoku period lots of people left theirs behind, but the idea is you don't want to leave anything with a crest on it for the enemy to get. But you see those holes in the flags, the curtains, they're historically accurate. They are monomi holes, which are viewing holes. They are not tears, or they shouldn't be, and they're specific places. You see this lady getting given a knife because that's what they used to do, present them with a knife to protect themselves against their honour being taken, or if they have to commit seppuku, so that's quite good. And they also have no theatre, which is samurai theatre, which was quite nice. Right, guys, I've been through most of the trailers there. What I'm going to do is just talk over the end trailer and tell you what I didn't really enjoy and what I did really enjoy. And one is that you can see is the female sort of like assassin-esque figure. So this entire production looks awesome. It looks well done. Remember, it's historical fantasy. William Adams came over just at the very, very end of the Sengoku period, the end of the major wars, and he basically, I don't think he attended Sekigahara, but the point is he came just at the end of everything, and then Christians were being banned, etc., etc. So there is a slight you've got two times coming into existence here, and the author of the original book have brought that all together and used different names. But that doesn't matter. My point here is that, yes, it's fiction. That's okay. And yes, they've done their best to get, to really sort of look at the origin of Japan and get it right. And they've done an outstanding job. Let's be honest, it looks wonderful, it feels wonderful, it's good, and it just feels like you could be in old Japan, except for the empowered female. There she is. So basically, this idea that, and we're going to get it, aren't we? We have to get it in today's day and age. The female is an ultimate fighter. She can easily counter the men, and she's suddenly an assassin. I really hope they don't use the word kunoichi in this, which is female ninja, because that would just, I've not even got time to explain how bad that would be. But there is nothing wrong with powerful female characters. Nothing at all. In fact, some of the best characters in cinema history. Ripley from Aliens is probably my favourite. You've also got Marmor from Dredd, who's amazing. So it's nothing about being anti-feminist or patriarchal or anything like that. But the simple fact is, in Japan, women were powerful politically. There's no need to introduce women fighting, being cool assassins. Women just didn't have that sort of power in Japan, and they didn't, like I've watched the Shogun's review and Nick, and he said, we do find women who can fight. We do find it, but it's sort of like, and it's not a problem having it in, but you've got to balance it with the males. It's really got to be balanced with males. You get Mike Tyson and the top judo champion who's female, and put them together in the same ring and watch what happens. If she can hold it home for a few minutes, that's great. But that's how it's got to be in film. You've got to really be careful how you portray that. Otherwise, you lose everybody. So let's hope they play that really well and it's really done. Nick's done his, and Nick from the Shogun is going to do a full review when the series comes out. I don't know if I've got it. I don't have Hulu or anything like that, so I might have to wait for the Blu-ray to come out to buy it like old school, because I don't have anything like that, and I tend not to download anything illegally. That's not what I do. So I'm not sure, guys. But beyond that, I've just got to say a massive thank you to the people who've produced it. I'm looking forward to watching it. And if you're ever listening to this, just put me on board. Come on. Put me on the bloody, advisors, and we'll sort it out. Get me, Nick the Shogunate. Get Stephen Nojiri from Tadagenji. And get Scott from Sengoku Studies. Bring on my translator Yoshie. We'll probably get Metatron involved, and we'll make you one of the best shows there's ever been with historical advisors. Now, I know you're going to have advisors on this show. You can tell it really stands out, but we've gone deeper and we're getting some deeper stuff in there. So come on, give us all a bell the next time you do something like this, and we'll get it. Please get yourself a copy of the Book of Bushido, guys. Very soon, after May this year, 2024, it'll be on Audible. So I'll put links below, but enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed the review. Please subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in more videos with your comments, guys. Goodbye.